Okay, so welcome to the Human Torus podcast. Again, the second interview with Max Harvey, where I am focusing on and intending to and wanting to bring people who are and have explored their human potential in ways that the majority of us may not have gone into such depth. And so I'll leave it there. It's as simple as that, really, and that's what I intend to do. Just so these people then can bring forth their experience and share to a wide audience and inspire, just by example, just by expressing how they got to where they are and the journey and the path they've been on. And today I am very blessed and I feel very fortunate to be interviewing Tristan Gutner, who is a success coach. I would call you my my intuitive, or my sort of, if I was to describe you to a friend, I would say you're kind of like an alchemical. You alchemize all of the past information and experience on what you're doing into you've crystallized it, excuse me. So you crystallize how to transform our outer world and what we want to see in our outer world, what people may be yearning to see in their outer world, but they haven't experienced yet. And they don't know why. They don't know, they can't nail it. They can't put their finger on why. And through your own experience, you have found a key to that. And it's in essence, it's very simple. And I feel that we all know, we know this intuitively, how to do this. But the majority, 90-something% of us, are maybe a little bit too, we have our little blockages and too many blockages. So therefore they've built up over our lifetime. We cannot see, we've forgotten, and we can't see that essence, our essence. And we need to face our essence. And well, I'll let you describe it because I'm struggling a bit there. But
I think you did a great job, man. No struggle
okay,
at all. Yeah,
okay,
no, I think that's a really good way to describe what I do. I'm sure we'll get into all this like in great depth as the minutes unfold. But from like a super early age, I could read people really well. Every human can. It's not something specific to me. For whatever reason, I happen to be aware of that. I think all kids are pretty aware of that, and they shut that down or modulate it to a certain degree based on their environment. For whatever reason, I didn't quite as much maybe as other people do. So that always sort of like led the way for me, but it was a pretty tremendous point of pain for most of my life, because I always felt like I was observing conversations or interactions, observing humanity, and what people would say and do never matched what I actually felt from them. Like, it was always like watching a conversation, two mouths just going blah, 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 blah. But then there was like this meta conversation up here, and that's the one that always felt stronger to me and more authentic, but no one was talking about it. So it was a pretty bizarre, isolating experience as a kid. But we can maybe go into my story more if you wanted later. But basically sort of taking that skill, which we all have. Usually entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders of all sorts, really, from athletes to the entertainment industry to just anything you can imagine, doctors, will come to me when they can see, sense, or feel that there is a higher potential for them to experience in their life and business, both. So sometimes people have a very clear idea of what that is. I know I want to increase my income to blah, blah, blah. Or I know there's this other thing I want to create. It looks like this, but I just don't know how to do it. Other times, it's more of a felt experience for someone without detail. They just know I have this burning sensation to create something new or to unleash something from within myself. I don't even know what it is or what it looks like, but I know it's there and I want to do it and I want to do it now. And they will come to me, and usually in a very short amount of time, we're able to unlock that thing, because it's like you're talking about in the intro, man, it's just all latent potential. We're in a sea of infinite potential. There's nowhere God isn't. Therefore, there's nowhere full potential isn't. So wherever we are, we have access to everything all the time. So the idea is like we're trying to get in there and understand what's going on in someone's psychological and emotional experience of the world previously, where they've erected different sets of walls or protective mechanisms to sort of shut themselves off from really seeing and then enabling that infinite potential within themselves. So we just go in and we sort of do like a psychological emotional audit, like, okay, well, that's going on there, that's going on there. If we move that cog here and that cog here and that cog here, all these things then line up. You start to see the world differently. And once we see the world differently, we start to recognize the opportunities to be, do, or have whatever it is we want to be, do, or have.
And when was it? Was there a point in your adult life that you, in your young adult life, that you, or on your path towards where you are now, a specific turning point or illuminated kind of point in time that really hit that home to you, that it all comes from inside, that it's all in there, it's already in there, it's just like seeing it, locating it, and just making that little shift through your awareness?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, man. I think it was a series of experiences, and I think we all have them. We just don't always recognize what they actually signify. But these moments where we're drawn to have a certain type of experience, let's say in life, to go to a certain place, to have a certain type of job, to meet a certain type of partner, and we see that thing unfold in our life, and it looks miraculous, like the hand of God just came down and plopped that thing in our life. We've all had little moments. Sometimes they're tiny, sometimes they're huge. But it was like a series of things that happened like that I started to sort of reverse engineer and go, oh, I actually, I wouldn't say I created them, but I actually opened the door by being willing to look at certain parts of myself that I had been unwilling to see before. So one of the experiences that comes to mind is, this was maybe 7 years ago, something like that. My wife and I had been together for a long time. We were not married at that point, but we've been together a really long time, committed for life, or so we both thought. We already had a child and all that, building life together, And we ended up splitting up for, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. And when it first happened, it was, people go through breakups all the time. It's nothing new. But it really blindsided me, and it really stirred this dark night of the soul for me. So I was really in the emotional throes of my own suffering, and telling myself all sorts of horrible, outdated stories about myself while I was going through it, which perpetuated the pain. And I just had this moment, man. I don't know why it happened. I don't know what I did to allow it to happen, or whatever the mechanism was behind it. But I was literally like crying on the floor. I was just broken, man. I felt so broken. And I just had this awareness. It was very quiet, but it really shook my world. I was like, dude, you can feel what you're feeling. But if you continue to think the thoughts that are associated with the feeling, i.e., you can feel grief, but if you continue to think the thoughts, this is never going to end, no one's ever going to love you again, you're not worthy of being loved, you're never going to move through this. Every one of those thoughts is just recycling that emotional pain. And it's a very simple idea, but it's very profound in its practice. So that hit me like a bolt of lightning, man. And basically everything in my life changed very, very shortly after that. So I just started to see like, oh my God, the way that I think about what it is I'm experiencing not only creates my suffering, but creates the pathway through it. And so both sides of that equation were very important for me to see. And then another moment that really jumps out, this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's a little more recent. I had started my business, but it was sort of a side hustle still. So I was doing it, but not really. It was really inconsistent. My wife and I were still painting houses. We ran like this high-end house painting business that we'd had for a lot of years. And basically, when I would need money to come in, I looked to the painting business. That's where I thought the source of my supply really was. And it was really painful for me. Because I wasn't doing what I loved. I wasn't doing what I was in a human body to do. I was not fulfilling my purpose, not really. And I had a moment where I was talking to one of my mentors, and I intended to ask him a pretty innocuous question. It wasn't something really laden emotionally for me. But the second I started talking and someone was actually there to really receive me, it was like this flood of emotion. Like I could barely speak. I don't know what he heard from the outside, but I was just weeping. I was a mess. The reason it happened is I had like bottled up my frustration and my sadness and my anger around essentially not letting myself be who I came here to be. I wasn't putting it together at that point, but it was like all the emotion just started flooding out. And once it passed, there was a calm after the storm. And I went like, holy shit, I can't do this to myself anymore. This is like abuse. This is emotional and psychological abuse to be doing this to myself. And I had this real turning point where I just understood like I needed to be willing to look at the parts of myself that I had been using as a very convenient excuse to hold myself down. If that makes sense. So I had to, like, we all have this potential to do whatever it is we're here to do and more. If we're not doing that, is because some part of us is shutting that down. And typically what we'll use to shut that down is shame and guilt and self-judgment and all the very painful, negative, self-inflicted emotional situations we get ourselves into. So in that moment, I just had this flash of awareness, like, Tristan, you really have to look at how you are using these psychological and emotional tools to keep yourself feeling so poorly about yourself that you don't recognize the opportunity to rise and to go do what you're going to do. And it was in that moment, man, that, I looked at things that were very uncomfortable to look at, but my willingness to do it in that moment was what really allowed the needle to move. It wasn't some magic bullet from outside. It wasn't some amazing strategy. It was just the willingness to be authentic with myself. And within 2 weeks of that, within 2 weeks, well, let me put it this way. In 5 days, I doubled what was my most profitable month ever in my coaching business. I did that in 5 days. And that's cool. But like, what was much cooler about it was that the way that I did that, I didn't go hustle. I didn't go work harder. I actually allowed it to be easier and allowed myself to trust myself. That was it. Those are the only things that changed in the experience. That really woke me up to what was possible if I started to really, really change my mindset.
And would you crystallize that as your awareness? Like you had become the awareness of those, and would you say there were more emotional energies that you had allowed to cloud your and to suppress your spirit that from past experiences, like emotional sort of, emotional energy that kind of got lodged in you, as it happens to every single human being, adult, human being, is they have, from their experience, they have, emotional energy that's kind of stored in the cells to do with each of those experiences that we haven't fully processed. And then just the awareness. So that's the fascinating thing, is that when you're, I can relate to what you're saying about when you've had an experience that it all comes to a point and you're just like, there's nothing else. You just got to feel it. You have to feel it and it's that willingness and that surrender to feeling it, what is already there. Because it's so in a way, I guess it's that every adult alive has these unfelt, unfully felt past experiences, and doesn't mean they have to re-experience everything like in traditional. That definitely
not at all. Not at all.
No, because that's like such a turn off.
Yeah, whenever someone signs on to work with me, often one of the first questions I hear is like, is this going to be like therapy where I have to sort of relive all this? And I'm not at all shitting on therapy. There's so many people in my life who that has helped tremendously. Certain people it's an amazing fit for, certain people it's not. Coaching is the same thing. Certain people it's a great fit for, certain people it's just not. So I'm in no way belittling that modality at all. But I do have a lot of people come to me and first off be like, so is this going to be like me having to relive trauma from? I'm like, no, not at all. Like what we sort of know implicitly, but we don't think about is like all time is now. There is no past and there is no future, not really. So all points lead to right now. And if in the moment we're willing to just be present with what's going on, we don't necessarily have to go relive this trauma. Typically, we want to do that because some part of us knows that if we go into that past a certain point, we'll sort of get stuck there.
Yes, exactly.
Because, you know, when someone hears like, all right, so I have to feel the emotional thing in there, they start going in looking for things to feel. And once we're looking for things to feel or release or heal, guess what? We're going to find that. And we're going to find like a never ending sea of them.
Yes.
So I always just tell people, no, we're just going to be present with what's happening. So we're actually going to focus on what you're excited about in your life or your business. We're going to focus on what you want to create. And we're going to help you live into that vision mentally, emotionally, and so forth. And then when fear comes up, because it will, or when shame or guilt comes up, because it will, then we're just going to be present with those things when they show up. And we're going to use these very simple tools to be present, to allow you to breathe through them, to allow you to express whatever you need to, and then we can just move forward. So it's never like going in with a shovel and digging around in the past. It's just like using a little squeegee. So when we're flying down the highway and something gets on the windshield, we can just in the moment take it down and keep going.
I like that. Yeah, it's a beautiful analogy. Yeah, so it's efficiency. It's like a super efficient way.
Yeah, and that's like again, this isn't for everybody, but my constitution, just the way I'm designed to go fast in most things that I do. I'm not saying I don't create pain for myself, but typically if I start resisting something, the pain will get too great too quickly that I will have like no choice really other than to blast through it. Whereas other people, I don't know, people have a different rate of growth and a different velocity. So I'm just designed to go quick. It's not better or worse, just as the way it is. But typically the people who want to work with me are similarly designed, or they wouldn't want my support. And so that principle of efficiency to me is really important, because I'm sure both of us know people who have spent years and years and years saying like, well, if I just heal this thing, and then I understand that thing from my past life, and then I connect this and I connect this, and bless anyone who's thinking like that. And for me, that's adding a lot of time and a lot of extra steps and sequences from getting to where I am to where I feel called to be. So I'd rather just go in, be real present with what's going on in the moment, look at whatever needs to be looked at, move through it just with awareness, because just things do change with our awareness. We don't have to go in and tinker around with things too much. We just have to be willing to actually look without the blinders on at these things we've had blinders on around the whole time. And what happens when someone does that is like, when we have these blinders on our whole life and we're only looking at this one thing, we won't look at all this other material. To not look at all that other material requires a huge amount of our life force to not look. Like we're managing all these different thoughts and feelings and emotions. I don't want to look there. I don't want to look there. I don't want to look there. So it's like a huge bandwidth of the available energy to us is going in suppressing these things. When we have the courage, just take the blinders off and look in a really curious way, not in a way that's going, holy shit, I have to fix all this, but just with curiosity, we immediately unleash this huge bandwidth of energy. And when that bandwidth of energy is released and we understand how to channel it, that's how we can move so quickly in our lives, our businesses, our relationships. So I think that's one of the reasons that I can see thus far how change can happen really quickly for a human being.
Yes, and the way you describe that, it makes me think of when we are in situations that are greatly challenging to us as individuals, or when either someone else, maybe it may be from outside, something outside us may have, pushed us towards a situation that was greatly challenging, or it may have come from within. We may have taken ourselves off traveling, or to somewhere, the unknown, where we couldn't plan certain things that happened. When you're in those situations, I'll only speak from my personal experience, and I know it's kind of a common thread for most people. Those are the times where you really find out who you are, and because there's no choice. The necessity is the mother of invention. It's just you, and it's only in hindsight that you're just overwhelmed with gratitude if you do reflect, if you do realize, I wouldn't have unlocked that if I wasn't in that extremely challenging situation.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's and we all have that. Everyone has it. Everyone has the ability to unlock everything in them. It's just we are in a over comfort ridden world, and maybe this situation right now is helping a lot of people to start looking further inside. I don't know. I mean,
well, it's certainly giving everyone the opportunity to do that, as life has slowed down a lot and we're, for the most part, just in our houses all day, either by ourselves or with our families. There's a lot less to distract ourselves with.
yeah.
Yeah, so the opportunity to look within has never been more bountiful or more readily available to us, I would say. Part of what happens too, man, is we're so unconsciously, we're so addicted to our pain, and we're also so scared of it. And so we don't want to let go of the patterns within us that create emotional and psychological suffering, because we have an emotional attachment to them. It's how we've learned to stay safe or feel safe. Even if they're very uncomfortable states, they're predictable. We know them. We've been doing them since we were really, really young. We probably saw our parents doing them. So there's a predictability and a certainty to it. So there's a part of us that's very addicted that doesn't want to let go. And there's also this part of us that is so scared of discomfort. So you're talking about these situations where it appears like life is forcing our hand to self-examine and to look at something, because something outside, in the outside environment's happening that's triggering an internal response that's very uncomfortable. Those are all gifts. Those things never go away. There's not a single human being who doesn't go through challenging times or have things happen that push against their belief system or their sense of comfort and safety. But we try so hard to not have to experience unknown types of pain. We're very happy to keep experiencing the pain we're familiar with because it creates predictability. We're so scared to experience pain of a different flavor or format that we're not accustomed to. And one of the things I do my best to practice in my own life, and I certainly try to help other people with, is when that stuff starts to show up, like, it's just an opportunity to grow. What's so scary about pain or discomfort? And in the end, nothing, like nothing really. I can't tell you the number of times I've been sitting with someone in this office or on the computer where they know it's time to look at something that they've been unwilling to look at. And they're so scared. They're like, sometimes people are shaking. They're so afraid to look at the thing. And I always tell them, like, I know it's so scary, but I promise on the other side, you're going to look back at this very differently. And what everyone finds 100% of the time is the fear or the resistance we feel leaning into this thing that's uncomfortable to look at is 1,000 times worse than the discomfort of actually going right through it.
Mm.
So
Yes.
we make it this boogeyman in our head, like, oh my God, the pain's never going to stop. It's going to overwhelm me. I don't know how to do this, whatever we tell ourselves. And then usually 5 minutes or less later, someone's sitting there bright eyed going like, oh, wow, that was awesome. And like, not really a very big deal at all. So we have this very complex and very intelligent protective mechanism operating inside of us that wants to hold on to the pain that we're accustomed to and wants to completely reject what we perceive as the pain or the discomfort of new experiences that are here to help us grow. And you see, when those two things are in place, it's very hard for life to go anywhere but exactly where it is. It stays right here. It doesn't vary too much.
Yes. And like life will throw them at people at all of us anyway. Life will throw difficult experiences at us anyway. I mean, it's going to happen anyway. So we might as well, if we can facilitate, if someone comes to you, they are grabbing the reins. They're taking control and initiating their facing of the unknown, rather than the unknown going wham at some point when they're just not expecting it.
Yeah, man, that's really well said, because like we're all here to bravely step into the unknown all the time. Whatever it is we want to create in our lives, our businesses, our relationships, it's unknown. We haven't experienced it. So one way or the other, moving forward in the ways we want to absolutely requires us to do that. No question about it. And there is so much resistance to doing that. like more than there is resistance to anything else. And, you know, I don't ever feel like life tests us. Like when I hear that phrase, it just doesn't really resonate. But what I believe life does, you know, if you look in nature, I'm looking at my windows right now. If you look at the nature of the universe itself, everything expands and grows. Life is for life. Life proliferates life. That's what it does in every instance. Even in death, death proliferates more life in other forms. And so I don't believe life tests us, but I do believe that life is constantly giving us the opportunity to grow in these amazing ways that we can barely comprehend. However, the opportunities to grow often look like life blindsiding us or a really hard thing happening. Like in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about, you know, he interviewed a huge number of very successful people at the time in the early 20th century, and was just noticing trends in these people's thinking and behavior that allowed them to succeed wildly way beyond what their imagination could even conceive. And one of the things he noticed really consistently was people saying, like, opportunity is all around us all the time. Like, what we want to have doesn't fall in our lap. It usually shows up in the form of opportunity that we have to say yes to, and then it leads us on this other path to where we want to go. But opportunity usually shows up disguised, I believe, as he puts it, as misfortune or temporary defeat. So the very thing that's here to take us forward, when it shows up, our subconscious is designed to see it as something threatening and to say no to it.
Right.
So life is always just going, here you go. Tristan, you want to move forward at Mach speed in your life and your business? Here's all the opportunity you need. But my subconscious is designed to see those opportunities as threats or misfortune or something painful. And so it inherently wants to shut things down rather than open up to them.
Do you think sometimes it's the body as well? Like the human body is also as a sentient being in its of it, you know, of itself, that it's actually it's a combination of the body and the subconscious, or you could say the body is the subconscious in a way. Because
I would say more that, yeah, the latter, that the body is the subconscious, that it's become the subconscious over time. Meaning, just for anyone listening or watching that didn't like totally click in, I think the reason you said that, Max, and the reason I'm agreeing to it is when we think thoughts habitually over time, those thoughts trigger emotions. Consistent emotions that then become part of the operating system in the body. And like emotions are just chemical reactions in the body based on a certain type of stimuli. And the body, once we've done that consistently enough, responded emotionally to thoughts or circumstances with a certain level of consistency, that just becomes the operating system of the body. Body goes, cool, when this and this and this happens, we produce X, Y, and Z chemical reactions, which you will perceive as anxiety, or you will perceive as grief, or you will perceive as abject terror. And it will just do that without the mind even having to trigger it eventually. So that's what I meant by that.
I mean, yeah, I can see your natural ability. It's really clear that you have it's in your nature, this ability to see, to want to see, or just to see is there. You see these, I guess it's truth. You are seeing the truth. And when there's something that's dissonant with the truth, you just feel uncomfortable. And I've met people like that. I feel like that myself about life. And in a way, maybe it relates to something else, knowing that there's only so much time, because we are in a kind of a very unique, if that is that's like an oxymoron of a phrase, incarnation, all of us. There is a limited time right now, as we are literally experiencing right now, of course. Yeah. And so it is this ultra efficient sort of like laser like locating of issues, and therefore dissolving them very quickly is essential if we are to be who we came here to be. You know, and you do that. That's what you do. There is something laser-like about your gift, and laser is the word, because it's just like, and it's beautiful. I mean, laser in it's clarity is what I mean. It's just this pristine clarity that you just like,
I'm laughing, Max, because it's like it's it's just not for everyone. Some people love it and they're like, yeah, I want that. And some people hate it and run for the hills. And yeah, we're not, none of us is here to serve everybody. We're just here to serve who we're here to serve. And some people it resonates tremendously with, and other people want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand maybe older generations or people who have just uh, a lot of baggage that they, through no fault of their own, they have built up belief systems, and there's too much to work through for some people, and that's okay. They're serving a perfect, beautiful purpose, living their
Yes.
lives. Yeah, and it's so no one is better than anyone else. I'm not. Yeah, but
Yeah, that's one of the things I hope anyone watching this and listening to this get. It's like whatever rate of growth you're drawn to is perfect for you. There is no better than, and like, yes, we'll only be in these particular bodies for finite amount of time, but energy lives on. The energy that we call Tristan or Max, that's underneath these meat suits, is going to go on to do other amazing things somewhere else in the universe or beyond. And so I think it's a very interesting question, to feel a sense of urgency without a sense of rushing. Meaning, I never want someone coming to me, and I wouldn't work with someone coming to me that's like, I just got to figure this out because like time is wasting away. And
mm,
there is an element to that. Like, as I think it was Jack Cornfield. I've never read the book, but I've just seen this quote a lot. But he's sort of quoting the Buddha or like interpreting what the Buddha said. And he says, the problem is you think you have time. And I think that's really powerful because we all do. We'll all put up with our own bullshit for so much time, thinking like, well, I'll have time to figure it out. I'll have time to do the dream. And in this particular incarnation, that's not true at all. But I never want someone to feel like a pressure to change. Like the velocity of all of our evolution, of our personal evolution, is between us and God. It's between me and God for me, and it's between you and God for you and everyone else. And that's a very intimate relationship that no one else can mitigate. No one else can really be a stand-in for. So yeah, like I like going fast. I'm designed to go fast with people. People want to work with me, want to go fast. And it's that should never be from a sense of lack, I guess is how I want to say it. From like, holy shit, I'm missing out on my life. More like, I just know there's more and I'm super excited to experience more. I know I'm here for more. Let's do this. Does that make sense, the distinction I'm making between those two states?
completely. And the word taking rushing, the energy of rushing out of the equation is really essential, because I never get that from you. I just feel you emit a stillness. Um, and it's through that stillness, kind of like the eye of the storm, that that's where everything's available. Like the tiny space of the heart is where everything is available,
Yes.
everything in the universe. So
Yeah, I'm gonna absolutely butcher this. I'm not even gonna try to quote it, but there's some part of the Bible I'm not well versed in scripture at all. But that just says, when two or more are gathered, here I am. And I love that idea because like God's everywhere all the time, or spirit or energy, whatever word we want to use there. And once we allow ourselves to be more aware of that, like you and I coming together, just have this conversation, is creating an opportunity for God to show up in a unique way. And once we're in that place, everything's available to us. We're at that 0 point and we don't have to rush, and we can go extremely fast if we want to, because everything is there. There's nothing lacking. There's nothing limited. There is no ceiling there. But I like that way you're describing it, as sort of like coming into stillness, to get quiet enough, to get still enough, to be present enough, to then open our eyes and look around and go, oh my God, literally everything I require to go from here to wherever I want to be instantaneously, to make that quantum leap, is already here. Awesome.
yeah, yeah. There's a moment there. It just reminded me of like literally the beginning of the Bible. When spirit moved across the face of the waters, it's like the dividing of the first sphere into two, and then creating the seed of life. Is the spirit becoming aware of itself, kind of thing. Yeah. So when there's two beings together, because on your own you can just kind of get lost in your own inner world, which is amazingly relevant to right now as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like choosing I'm a huge proponent of being really conscious of who we choose to have as reflections in our life and who we choose to have in our corner. Um, and it's why like am very discerning who I bring into my life, into like the inner sanctum of my life. It's also why I always have mentorship in my life at a high level, because I know if I'm left to my own devices, like I'll go to a certain point, but I know I'm going to hit my own blind spots, and they're called blind spots for a reason. I can't see that they're there. I just know I keep hitting my head against the ceiling, and it sucks. It's uncomfortable and it's painful. And so for me, it's always been very important to have someone in my corner that I can go, okay, I know what I want. I know what I'm really excited to go create or experience and help people with. I know it's possible because I know the only reality is God is. Every opportunity is here. And I'm not seeing how to do it right now. So please help me see where I'm stopping my own awareness so I can go forward. And for me, that's just been invaluable. I really credit like most of the things that I've been excited about in my life over the past many years have been the direct result of having some sort of mentorship um, to help me sort of create a workaround around my own stopping points, the places where I want to stop because it gets too uncomfortable.
Right. And that's unique to being human, I guess as well. Yeah, and essential. Like we're a social species. You know, it's just it's a necessity. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. And it's very interesting because like obviously it's a necessity, and most people, the high majority of people, are drawn to have social relationships with other people. And we will often choose people who are probably really awesome people, but who match where we are in our life. And where we are is typically just a reflection of where we've been. You know, whatever the reality is we're walking around is the product of past thoughts that have become concretized into this reality we're walking around in. So wherever we are is really just representative of where we've been. But we'll often choose people who are at a very similar place in their life, who have been in a similar place, whose thinking has created similar things in their own life. And it makes sense, but it also can be very limiting or even dangerous if you really see the purpose of your life as to grow and to evolve. We'll choose people actually who don't push us to evolve. And I get why we do it. It's understandable. And I think it's just really important to constantly be evaluating and examining like who we are consciously choosing in our lives, because those are the people, you know, it's said a million different ways, but the people we're close to are the ones that are either really advocating for our dreams and our vision and pushing us to grow, or really advocating for our limitations and sort of silently begging us to stay put so they don't have to grow. And I think it's a really, really important thing to look at in all of our lives, like who we are inviting in and allowing in and choosing to be around all the time.
God, I agree with that so much. I mean, and a lot of us will be experiencing that. A lot of people in lockdown with family, you know, will be having the blessing of a big magnifying glass on that right now.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it is a blessing, really, if you can. But it's just you have to kind of be a bit of a warrior for yourself. I don't like the word warrior because contains the word war, but like you have to be a bit of a ninja, like a spirit ninja, and yeah, you have to be able to really be with yourself and breathe. I guess you just need to you could breathing is an essential tool right now for everyone in lockdown, I think. um
I
yeah.
think also, oh, go ahead, Max. Sorry.
No, I won't give you my, so I'm in a build a situation where I have a nice flat, but it's a converted house. And so there are people who are far closer to me than I would like them to be. Not because of the proximity, but because I didn't get to choose, you know. And that's a big challenge, but so that's my personal lockdown challenge, and I'm facing it every day, and I'm happy to do that, but it's a real challenge. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all, man. What I was going to say a minute ago is deeply connected to that, which is like this idea that we get to choose the environment that we're in. We don't always get to choose every aspect, and we're not here to control the external environment. But most of us, for the most part, get to choose to a high degree the people we're surrounded by and things in our immediate environment. And what we choose both reflects our state of thinking, and it also typically reflects like how much we're going to be able to grow in that particular environment. And being in lockdown right now globally is really fascinating because to a certain degree, like you're saying, we don't really get to choose the people we're around, not to a huge degree, or we don't have as much flexibility within that. What we can choose, though, about our inner environment is the type of information we're taking in. And there is so much fear in the world right now. And I get it. Like when this happened, I went through a pretty tremendous fear state too when it first happened. And it wasn't from the place of like, oh my God, I think we're all going to die. It wasn't on that level. I didn't have that particular fear. What I did notice though, is something in my nervous system deep within me was just going, oh shit, this is totally unknown. This is like a completely brand new playing field. And I have no idea how to operate here. The things we're all accustomed to that we source our safety from, meaning like I can go to the store when I need to, I can do this when I need to, I can go see this person when I need to. Me buying food will be the way it's always been. All of those things were like just thrown up in the air. So some part of my nervous system just immediately was feeling the surrender required and really freaked out around it. Was like, oh my God, I don't like this at all. I don't like not being able to predict certain aspects of my day-to-day life. So I certainly went through that, and you can see that amplified into the world so much if you turn on the news at all. You know, I'm not a huge consumer of the news at all. Typically, I am a little bit more now than I have been because I'm just curious, like how different countries and different people are dealing with this. But I still keep it to like a minute or two in the morning and maybe a minute or two around dinner time, just opening the New York Times or CNN or the Guardian or whatever, just to look and just go like, okay, what's happening on a gross scale? But even that is pretty gruesome, man. There's just all it is death and destruction and terror around the economy. And I get why that's happening for people, but I just really want to encourage anyone watching this or listening to this to remember, like, you have a choice of what you take in. Like turn that stuff off. You don't need it. And nor do you need to talk to other people who are mired in their own fear state right now. Bless them if they are, but it's not your job to go save them, and it's not your job to go down to their level. Like, if you want to talk to people because you're isolated and lonely, call the people in your lives who you know have a higher perspective here, who you know are looking for the gift in this, you know are looking for the opportunity in this. Because it's a pretty tremendous opportunity and moment to grow. Like when something this unprecedented happens, it means the capacity for growth in it is equally unprecedented. And I would just really encourage everybody to go seek out the information, the friends, the connection, whatever it is that you're taking in, the data you're taking in, to seek out data that is going to help you experience an elevated perspective or state of consciousness rather than dipping into the fear state that much of the planet's in right now.
Yes, good advice. Thank you for saying that. Totally agree. Totally agree. And it's not difficult. It's just a decision.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I would like to put it out there for people to contact you for any if they feel drawn to your way, to your service of what you offer people right now, because it's a great opportunity for people to because we're going to come out of lockdown. So when we come out, we're kind of coming out and no one knows. It's totally the unknown.
Exactly. That's why it's so beautiful. It's so powerful. Eventually we will come out of this into a brand new world, one way or the other. Who knows what it will look like, but it will be brand new.
My God, it's so exciting. And it means like every moment and it kind of highlights what's always been true anyway. Every moment is so precious, so deep, so infinitely precious. Life, however we can get it, is so precious. So
yes. Yeah. So I'm the people that I'm currently working with and that are in my sphere. It's like, that's what a lot of what's happening is creating these internal and external structures for as the gates open back up, so to speak, they can come out riding a unicorn at full speed, just soaring into the sunrise as high as they want to answer your question, Max, people can really easily reach me through my website, tristangutner.com. You can email me at tristan@tristangutner.com. And you can also, I have a podcast and a TV show called The Lift with Tristan Gutner. It's on iTunes, on Roku, on Apple TV. You can find it most places that content exists. So that's an easy place to find some stuff too.
Fantastic. Yes, I've seen The Lift. It's amazing. I recommend that to everyone. Yeah, it's awesome. And it has that laser-like pristine quality that you emit anyway, of just the stillness and the clarity that's coming from that place. But like, no, you really know your stuff. Like you've really explored self-development and crystallized the things that really work from like almost the whole industry. From what I can see, you've really crystallized all of the things that really do work, because there's a lot of stuff in that industry that's
yeah, like anywhere, there's a lot of gems and a lot of stuff to probably best be passed over. And yeah, for me, man, it's always been learning and then leading through experience. So basically, I've always put myself into the experience, sometimes quite painfully, and things like really don't work and they nosedive, they crash and burn. Other times they do work, and anything that has worked for me and that I can see consistently working, I will just immediately give to other people. And when I see it's really working for them too, it just becomes sort of part of the canon of tools and strategies we have to use.
And I wanted to cover, I haven't asked you yet, but because you were a teacher with the School of Remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so this is a unique school. It's a mystery school of our time, of this global shift time that we're all experiencing and becoming acutely aware of right now. And all the teachers that I know and have met in this school are remarkable people. They are truly remarkable, every one of them. Souls, I would say. And so could I ask you what led to you becoming a teacher, or how did you come across the Melchizedek work? Mm-hmm. It's kind of quite far. Maybe that's a bit far to go back, but is that all right to ask?
Oh yeah, of course. You can ask me anything, literally, and I'll be pretty succinct. I think I can do that succinctly. Myself and my wife also, we've always both just been seekers, from, as I think I expressed early on, like a very early age, just always sort of curious about life, always this sense that there's more than what's going on with our five senses and different experiences that seem to indicate that. One point, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, something like that, we were walking into a bookstore, I think a Barnes and Noble here in the US, and from across the store, and it was a really big Barnes and Noble, my wife was like, "What is that?" And I had no idea what she was talking about. We're just in a bookstore. She's like, "That book's like glowing." That's what she was experiencing. I had no idea what she was talking about, and I trust her, so we just went. And it was one of the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. I think it was volume 2 by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Just glowing there in the, I don't know, meditation or spiritual section or whatever they have there. And we picked it up, and it was all these sort of like ancient mystery information from ancient Egypt to just all sorts of amazing material, stuff that I'd always been drawn to. And here was this human synthesizing it all in this way that felt very comprehensive, and more importantly to me, like really heart-based. And I think it's really interesting when we start talking about multidimensional awareness and God and spirit. It can feel, to me, very ungrounded depending on who you're talking to. And it can feel like, okay, so angels and archangels and multidimensions, but how is it pertinent to me in this three-dimensional body right now? Like, how do I integrate all of those things? And for me, that book was a really beautiful, really easy, simple, heart-centered way to take all of the mathematics of transformation and multidimensionality and bring them into this very succinct, beautiful place. So that's how we came across Drumbelo's work. And my life changed, our lives changed so quickly within a few months of it happening on almost every conceivable level. My life just looked completely different. And I'm happy to tell that story, but I think it maybe is best told another time because it would just take a while. But it really reawoke in me that part of me. I was very alive as a kid that said, like, your job is to help people. Your job is to help people understand God's spirit source in a way that is highly integratable into their current life. So I'm not super interested in leading people on really long meditation retreats, but then having them return to their everyday life and not really having their experience change. Just for me, that's not who I'm here to be. So yeah, we saw this opportunity to learn Drumbelo's body of work and to go teach it. And I jumped on it really, really quick, and it was really thrilling. And, you know, as much as the work itself was profound, which it absolutely is to just an extraordinary degree, for me, one of the most profound things, Max, was like believing in myself enough that I could teach this work that was so important to me, to trust myself enough that, like, I am enough, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I'm valuable enough, I understand enough. Because those were a lot of the patterns I was working with still at that point, a lot of the sort of unprocessed emotional material. So just applying, being accepted, going and spending these 2 weeks learning and studying, and then going to teach this work. Aside from the results that it got for everybody else, just for me, it was so healing to choose what I really wanted and to believe in myself enough to go do it. And that might sound very simple, and it is, but it was a profound healing to do that and to choose that, because there were so many other things in my life I hadn't done because I was so scared I wasn't good enough or that I was going to fail or mess it up somehow. So for me, that was aside from the work itself, just that was so profound for me and such a massive shift.
And you mentioned that it was heart, the heart energy was the proliferating energy in the work. It's kind of built on the heart, the energy of the heart, that work, or it's like certainly the seed, the core. And all I can say is that I relate to that 100%, in that there's something about that work that's just so activating to certain people, that whoever comes across it, you will come across it if you're meant to come across it, just like all other remarkable ancient wisdom.
Something I really love about that body of work, and it's what I love about any body of work that I'm really drawn to, like whether it's autobiography of a yogi or Joe Dispenza's work, all these, for me, what really always touches me is this work that brings both the cerebral aspect and the heart aspect together, which brings thought and feeling together, because they're not really two different things ultimately, but in this human experience, they are polarized. But when they come together, something very magical happens. So all three of those bodies of work for me essentially like make God or source very relatable, both from a feeling standpoint and a thought standpoint. And as humans, I think it's very important that we're able to integrate those two things. So I think for me, that's why that work is so touching.
Beautifully expressed there. That's beautifully expressed. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And it's like, that's what you've, and many other people who came through that school, because there are other schools, as you say. There's Ramtha, which is Joe Dispenza's work, seems to be largely sort of flowered out of the Ramtha school. And there's the autobiography of a yogi, the sort of the yogic lineages. And it's like all of these souls, all of us, every one of us alive now who is activating, will find something, find an ancient mystery school of some sort that will it'll just appear in your life, and it will be that marriage of the heart and the brain, definitely the heart and the mind, that it just like it's activating. Yeah, it just kind of lights up your DNA. You're just like, and then onto a different path in part of your life that is meant to be, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, and I like with all these different experiences, I think it's really important for humans to understand, like, this is scientific, meaning it doesn't have to be of the mind. That's not what I mean by that. But I mean, there's actually like a proven sequence to get you from where you are to where you have a burning desire to be, where you are called to be, where you are destined to be. And I think that's important because for a lot of humans, I think that journey feels very confusing and completely mystifying, and feel very stumped by it and angry and afraid that they can't figure it out. And, you know, I remember when I first read Autobiography of a Yogi a long time ago, I also read at the same time Sri Yukteswar's book, who's Yogananda's guru. Oh my God, I'm spacing on the name right now. Oh my God, that's so frustrating. But anyways, you guys can look it up. It doesn't matter. But it's there's literally science in the title. That's why I'm bringing it up. But you can put that in the show notes or something, Max. But
Okay.
I love it because it's taking this ineffable thing. It's taking God or spirit or source and actually going, hey, there's a pathway. And this thing, if you examine the human body, it's a perfect pathway to self-realization. If you take meditation, it can be this perfect pathway. Like, there is a path and it's well delineated over time. And actually, there's innumerable paths. You just have to find the one that resonates and then go. But I like all these systems that have a very clear approach to realization, because I think it's really helpful for human beings.
Yes, definitely. It gives you confidence as well to know, yeah, which is essential because a lot of people are quite rightly a bit wary when they hear people are talking about love, and there is no, they don't sense the science part, the left brain part, because our world is kind of has been running primarily from that analytical side for a long time. So yeah, it's a good entry point. A lot of people do. It is an intellectual entry point that will take them into more heart-based work.
Yes.
Or an experience, like a really raw experience. I mean, it could be anything, to be honest. Yeah.
Side note, Sri Yukteswar's book is called The Holy Science. I just remembered, for anyone curious about that.
Oh wow, that's a beautiful name. I haven't heard of.
Yeah, it's like the most beautiful name for a book there could be.
Yeah, it's, it's like that
Because it
guy.
is all science. It's all demonstrable. That's one of the things, Max, I think you and I have talked offline about this, but I was a professional musician for many years before I really started doing this work. And, music's in my blood, it's in my DNA. And one of the things I love about music is that it's both completely left brain and completely right brain. So music or sound can be represented with minute, very specific mathematics. The entire universe can be represented mathematically, but it can also be represented as sound, and sound is something we experience and we feel. So music has always been, for me, a very interesting gateway that brings both of those things together naturally. But if we're looking around, everything we experience is both of those things.
Totally, and yeah, I mean, it's the left and the right brain. If you do in your life, if you have a balance, if you do create and find a balance of the two, you're you kind of I've heard it said by Drumbelow actually that your kind of your corpus callosum kind of develops pretty fast, and it kind of
Yes.
knits your two hemispheres together to become one, and you're like an ultra. You become who you are. Become who you really are.
Yes, exactly.
And when did you stop teaching Drumbelo's work, or did you come to a natural kind of? It came to a natural conclusion for you.
Yeah, I came to a very natural conclusion. So I think I probably taught for 2 years. I think that's a safe estimation, somewhere in that ballpark. I loved teaching it. Um, I just, it's very interesting. I think this happens for all of us, but when I started teaching Drumbelo's work, I had this idea, like, I have found it. This is what I'm going to do. It's like, I don't have to search anymore. I found the thing. And I felt so much relief around that. but it's never the thing is never the thing. Meaning, like when we reach a plateau, like if anyone has ever climbed a mountain, it's like you see the top of the mountain, or so you think, and you get there, and then all you see is like another mountain beyond that, and another and another. And life's like that. So I loved teaching the work, but pretty early on in it, I kept feeling like, oh shit, like this isn't the thing for me. It's a thing and it's a step in the right direction, but it's not the end goal. And I knew I had my own body of work to teach. I could feel that. And I knew that I wanted to do something where it was, there was a little more room for improvisation and a little more room for me to dive in one-on-one with people. Because in the workshops, I'd see people having profound internal experiences during meditation or during some of the teaching. But I could also see like that person, for them to actually really integrate this and use it to change their life forever, I can see that they need to be more aware perhaps of a mental or emotional pattern that's running things. And that's not the nature of that particular work. That's not what it was designed to do. It was designed to disseminate a particular pathway, and the pathway itself is immaculate. I was just noticing a gap where certain people needed more attention, and that's what lights me up. So yeah, a couple of years in, even though I was very resistant to it, I just started to offer my own body of work and start this coaching business. And it was, as I said, it was very challenging because I wanted to not have to go into the unknown again. I found this thing, I had worked, I had grown to step into it and lean in and be able to teach it and lead it. And then some part of me, some higher part of me was going, awesome, man, that was a really helpful step, but here's this other thing you need to do. And I knew the other thing was going to stretch me and grow me again. And quite frankly, man, I just didn't want to have to do that. So there was some resistance, but eventually I knew I had to listen to that voice and started my current business.
Yes, that's beautifully described. That's a great analogy for just the process of your path unfolding as an individual. Definitely. And yeah, I know what you mean, that feeling of like, oh yeah, I found it, this is it, and then it's like you just know that there is no final it. And if there is, maybe you're missing something, you could kind of resist. You could resist that, the evolutionary flow within, and just try and stay with something, but then you will fester. Yeah. So no
Yeah,
matter.
and things will fall apart in your life. Like anytime we try to stay like life isn't static, it's either growing or decaying. And anytime we try to white knuckle it and like hold on to the bar and not go with the flow of life, that's when things start to implode around us, that sort of force us onward.
Very interesting, because it's the kind of thing I relate to that as I had elements of being kind of perfectionistic when I was younger, and not in a kind of over the top way, but just I would catch myself and I'd realize this is like too comfortable. What am I doing? This is when you get too kind of like, it's like, you're good at something, and then everyone has had that. I'd say everyone has had that feeling with something, hopefully. Um, and then you maybe life is responding to you as like, oh yeah, you're the one that's good at this, and it's like, and then you kind of have to live up to that, and then it's like, then you feel stifled, and you're like, nah, there's a whole universe out here I need to explore. Yeah. I think that probably affects a lot of kids in school, with when people are kind of funneled into specific areas to specialize rather than generalizing more and having more opportunity to really explore who they are through.
Yeah, that was like one of my first really challenging points in life, or almost breakdowns, was when I went to college or university, and I went to a very liberal place that the students were given a lot of power to choose, more than in most other college settings. But I still had this like real discomfort and fear come up, because I was like, I was 18 or 19 or 20, going like, I have no idea, man. I haven't experienced life enough to have any idea. And it scared the shit out of me at the time, truth be told. Like I left school because I was so overwhelmed by, I had never been shown how to like be myself, how to be authentically myself, how to understand who I really am. Like, not in the way that I needed. And I think I understand why school typically operates the way it does. Like you have to get a lot of kids through these pretty specific or over these pretty specific hurdles. So in order to do that, you have to, a certain level of personal touch has to go away. So I understand it. And I think there's room for the educational system to grow, but I get why that happens for sure. And I think it's so important to give ourselves the time and space to actually really investigate who we are. And I'm not advocating not going to college necessarily, but having some space and time to stop and just go like, who am I? What do I really want to do? I'm going to go choose and have an experience and see what happens. And it might be amazing and it might be terrible, but either way, I'm going to learn more about myself, and that will lead me to the next and the next and the next.
Totally. And I do think sometimes, like sometimes external events will happen that make that happen if we don't take the initiative and break the patterns ourselves, or initiate the breaking of kind of certain stifling patterns, or old patterns. Yeah, and I think especially a lot of us, because so many of us right now are amazing souls, or every one of us. It's not so many of every single one of us. and so it's important that we remind each other of that, and perhaps situations like this, this lockdown situation, people are kind of going, oh, maybe this is to do with my incarnation, why I came here, maybe this is I need to look at things a bit more. I need to, because I mean that subject, it's fascinating, incarnation as a subject, because there is still a huge portion of our species that hasn't acknowledged or doesn't believe that. They believe that we're just here for one life and could do what we want because there's no consequence. But personally, it doesn't. I feel it's the opposite. But it's not a belief; it's just a strong. I would say it's a knowing. But,
well, it's funny because we all will believe science and physics like without thinking about it, and incarnation or something like incarnation is pretty heavily suggested when they say energy is neither created nor destroyed; it just changes forms.
yes, which is the scientific.
This is all this is energy. That's it. So when this body, this thing that looks like my body, is gone, it's like the energy that comprises who we consider ourselves to be. If we believe science at all, it obviously has to go somewhere. So I don't claim to know where it goes or what happens. I just know that what we consider death is not the end in the way that we typically think that it is.
Yeah, that alone gives new perspective to life, definitely.
Yeah.
Even without a conclusion, just pondering it. I mean, yeah, God. Could go. That's a big one.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we wrap up? I think we'll wrap up here.
That's up to you, man. Yeah. I have about 7 more minutes. If there's anything else you want to ask, feel free. If you feel complete, that's amazing too.
Okay. Well, no, I'll leave it. Actually, I'll open it up to you. Is there anything that you, in this situation, this unique global situation we're all in right now, we have covered it a little bit, but like, is there anything particularly pertinent that you feel from your experience as a success coach and a life transformation coach, in my opinion, the most efficient way that there is, and real and successful way that there is? Anything that you that you could offer from as that being, as that person?
Yeah, sure, man. The way I'm looking at this is like anything that happens in our life is an opportunity to grow. And like we said, the more unprecedented the thing that shows up is, the greater the opportunity, isn't it? And obviously this is a pretty unprecedented scenario we're in. So while it's scary and painful and at the very least inconvenient for many people, it's opening up a huge opportunity to grow. Like when you are forced to experience something you've never had the privilege of experiencing, it opens up different pathways inside of you. So what I'm recommending to all my clients, and I'm doing it myself, is 2 things. Being really honest about ourselves with what's getting triggered. So if you have a lot of fear or a lot of grief, or you feel extraordinarily lonely because you've been by yourself or whatever might be going on, to actually spend some time with that part of yourself. I'm not saying to conflate it or indulge it with stories about what that means. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're feeling afraid or terrified or whatever might be going on. Spend some time with it. Actually allow yourself to, when we experience an uncomfortable state, we just want it to go away quickly. So either we bury it or we do whatever we can to ignore it. The way forward, though, is to actually let it breathe, not to look at it and go, oh my God, I do have so much to be afraid of. Look at this, look at this. That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean if you're afraid, bring that part of you forward. Just look at it. Oh, look at it. There's a part of me that's terrified. How fascinating. Just with curiosity, with neutrality. The more you're willing to do that with these parts that are getting stirred up, again, just by looking at them with awareness, you'll start to transform them. That's how energy moves, by being observed. Science even says that. Energy changes forms when we observe it. So all these parts of yourself that have sort of been buried, that are getting stirred up because it's very uncomfortable right now, bring them forward. Celebrate the fact that that's happening. Just look at them with curiosity. That alone will move so much energy for you and will transform, because again, you won't be using all this life force and mental attention to try not looking at this stuff. So if you feel shitty right now, it's okay that you do, but really examine why you do. Like, bring it forward and look at it. Go, oh my God, how interesting. Some part of me is using this to feel a ton of shame. Some part of me is using this to confirm that I have no self-worth, or whatever it might be. And just look. Don't bite on the stories, but just look. That alone will start to move so much energy for you. The second piece I've also been practicing myself and given all my clients, anyone I talk to, is spend time every day actually dreaming about what you want to go create. Once you get to emerge back into the world, you have potential in any moment to go create whatever you want. So as the world is born anew from this experience, and you eventually will go leave your house and interact with the rest of the world, what would light you on fire to go do? What would light your soul on fire to get to do every day? And I don't want you to start thinking about if it's possible, how it's possible. Like, don't even go there. The how will be provided by God. You don't need to worry about that yet. Right now, just spend time actually living into that experience. As Neville Goddard says it, he says, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So if you want to be leading a tech company right now that you don't currently lead, spend 10 minutes every day seeing yourself leading that very successful tech company. And you're not looking at it like a movie where you're watching yourself as one of the characters. You're actually looking out through your own eyes in the vision. Maybe you're walking around the office. Maybe you're seeing your clients with huge smiles on their face. Maybe you're seeing your bank account where you want it to be. Maybe you're seeing yourself hugging your spouse, or your kids, or your friends. But really live the experience, because the more consistently you do that, and the more consistently you make feeling happy, satisfied, abundant, successful, the more consistently you feel that, the more habituated it is to think thoughts that lead to that. And the more consistently you think thoughts that lead to that, the more consistently you will see the opportunities around you to do the things to then go have the experience. So thought leads to feeling, leads to action, leads to results. So if you want a different result, it has to start with thinking differently. And thinking, again, is just where we focus our attention. So spend time every day thinking about and actually living into your dream, and get emotionally invested in it. Because eventually it will become second nature to think thoughts and feel feelings that are in harmony with the thing you really want. And once you're in harmony with the thing you really want, again, its potential already exists all around you. And once you're a vibrational or harmonic match for the thing, you will notice it in your world, and you will understand the steps to take to go bring that to reality, if that makes sense. So I think this is a good time to start really dreaming into the future that we desire for ourselves.
Thank you. That was beautifully described and given and gifted. That was really beautiful and great reminder. And yeah, thank you so much, Tristan.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, it's been an honor. And I'll put all your information below just below the video. And yeah, please get in touch with Tristan if you have queries, questions about working with Tristan. And yeah, gosh, I feel so fired up and inspired already. Like, I don't know what. Yeah, how can I just be still right after that? No, but thank you. Thank you, Tristan.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, like Max said, any questions you guys have about anything, please reach out to me, and I'm here to help you any way I can. So
Fantastic.
yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, Max, and everybody watching, listening. Same to you guys.
Will you stay on for like 2 minutes? 1 minute? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All
We
right.
got time.
All right. Awesome.